Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a highly energetic tour inside the human body's ultimate high-tech command center. We're going to decode the vast, complex network that controls absolutely everything. Every breath you take, every memory you form, and every single movement you make. All right, let's kick things off with a mind-blowing fact. Your brain technically has a mass of about 1,400 grams, so almost 3 pounds, but it effectively functions at a weight of just 25 grams. How is that even possible? Well, because it literally floats. We're going to uncover exactly how your body pulls off this biological magic trick a little later on. To make sense of all this dense biological machinery, we're using a bottom-up approach across 6 areas: the ultimate command center, life support and movement, the emotional and vital core, the seat of consciousness, the body's wiring system, and finally, armor and fluid dynamics. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the ultimate command center, defining the network. We are starting with the absolute highest level view of how our nervous system is actually organized. So the crucial point here is distinguishing between the 2 main functional divisions of your peripheral nerves. On one hand, you've got the somatic nervous system. That's the one you consciously control to walk, talk, and move your skeletal muscles. On the flip side is the autonomic nervous system. This one operates entirely in the shadows. It runs quietly in the background to automatically regulate your vital internal organs, keeping you alive without you ever having to actively manage a thing. Moving up to Section 2, life support and movement, the base systems. We're heading straight to the brainstem and cerebellum, the core systems handling vital life support and automated physical movement. This beautifully illustrates our roadmap. Right at the base of the skull, you have the medulla oblongata, the pons, and the midbrain. Together, these form the brainstem, which acts as the critical bridge between your spinal cord and the higher centers of your brain. Every single part of this stem is absolutely non-negotiable for survival. The medulla sets your baseline heartbeat and breathing rhythm. Just above that, the pons fine-tunes the depth of that breathing. And above that is the midbrain. You know, if you're ever walking down the street, hear tires screeching, and instantly whip your head around in defense, you can thank your midbrain for that. It handles those rapid protective reflexes to sights and sounds, all while your medulla and pons ensure your heart and lungs keep pumping right through the shock. Sitting just behind that brainstem is the cerebellum, which literally translates to the little brain. This fascinating structure takes over learned physical routines, constantly tracking exactly where your body parts are in space. So if you trip and rapidly throw your arms out to perfectly balance yourself, that's the cerebellum stepping in. It's also why you can do complex things like tying your shoes or driving a stick-shift car without consciously thinking about the mechanics of what your hands and feet are actually doing. Let's see how this builds as we enter Section 3. The emotional and vital core, the inner brain. This is where baseline survival meets complex emotion in the diencephalon and limbic system. Before we dive into the exact anatomy, just think about how intensely responsive this area of the brain is. How do intense emotional states like sudden fear or chronic stress actually alter your physical hardware? Deep inside the brain is the diencephalon. Here we find the thalamus, which makes up about 80% of this region. It acts as the ultimate gateway, organizing incoming sensory signals before they ever reach your conscious awareness. Right beneath it is the hypothalamus, basically serving as your body's master thermostat. It dictates your body temperature, hunger, thirst, and controls the autonomic nervous system to manage things like your heart rate. Intertwined with all this is the limbic system, often called the emotional brain. It houses the amygdala, a tiny almond-shaped structure that detects threats to trigger fight or flight, but also pulls up happy emotional memories, like recognizing your grandmother's face. Next to it is the hippocampus, which is essential for learning and spatial memory. Thanks to neuroplasticity, it can create new connections. But a quick word of warning. If it's bombarded by prolonged levels of the stress hormone cortisol, the hippocampus can actually shrivel. So quite literally, worrying too much can shrink a part of your brain. We've also got the cingulate gyrus here, helping us shift between thoughts and playing a massive role in decision-making. Now, we arrive at Section 4, the seat of consciousness, the cerebrum. We've reached the CEO level of the brain, where you become conscious of yourself and the world. Notice the specialized mapping of the cerebrum. We've got the classic divide between the logical, language-processing left hemisphere and the spatial, artistic right hemisphere. But look at these sensory and motor homunculus maps, showing exactly how much of your cerebral cortex is dedicated to different body parts. Notice how bizarrely proportioned the hands, lips, and tongue are compared to the arms and legs? That's because those specific areas require vastly more complex motor control and sensory processing real estate in your brain. The cerebrum is further divided into 5 specialized lobes. The frontal lobe handles higher intellect and voluntary motor control. The parietal lobe integrates sensory inputs, helping you with spatial orientation and crunching mathematical computations. The temporal lobe processes hearing and smell. The occipital lobe interprets what your eyes see. And hidden deep inside is the insula. This lobe gives you visceral awareness of your internal organs. It's the exact reason you suddenly become consciously aware that you have a full bladder. Moving into Section 5, the body's wiring system, spinal cord and plexuses. We have this incredible central command, but it's totally useless without wires to send the signals, which brings us to the peripheral nerves. The spinal cord acts as the main anatomical highway, safely passing down through your vertebrae. From the spinal cord, spinal nerves branch out, splitting off into ventral and dorsal rami. This creates an intricate network that connects the central command directly to the muscles and sensory receptors all over the rest of your body. Once they leave the spine, these nerves rearrange themselves into 4 major functional networks called plexuses. The cervical plexus controls the neck and the diaphragm for breathing. The brachial plexus wires up your arms and hands. The lumbar plexus handles the anterior legs. And the sacral plexus covers the posterior legs, notably forming the massive sciatic nerve. This is the largest single nerve in your entire body, running all the way down your leg. Finally, Section 6, Armor and Fluid Dynamics, Protecting the Machine. Let's explore the crucial infrastructure that protects, powers, and cushions this incredibly delicate biological supercomputer. Just beneath your skull lies a 3-layered armored membrane called the meninges. There are 3 distinct layers. You have the tough outermost dura mater, the web-like arachnoid, and the delicate inner pia mater touching the brain itself. These layers keep the brain securely partitioned and protected from the hard bone of the skull. And flowing through all of this is cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF. Now, this clear, colorless fluid doesn't just magically appear out of nowhere. It's actually filtered directly from the plasma of your blood. Specialized bundles of blood vessels called choroid plexuses, located inside the hollow ventricles of the brain, continuously produce this fluid to bathe the entire central nervous system. Going back to our hook at the very beginning of this explainer, CSF plays 3 vital roles. First, it acts as an internal crash airbag, insulating the delicate tissue from trauma. Second, it handles metabolic exchange, cycling vital nutrients in and metabolic waste out. And third, it creates that amazing buoyancy we talked about. It suspends the heavy brain in a very salty bath, reducing its effective weight from roughly 1,400 grams down to just 25 grams. If not for this fluid, the brain's own crushing weight would actually cut off its blood supply. Wild, right? However, if this fluid fails to drain back into the bloodstream properly, it causes an abnormal accumulation called hydrocephalus. This dangerous increase in pressure requires surgical intervention. Medical shunts are used to create an artificial detour. Things like a ventriculoperitoneal, or VP shunt, and a ventriculoatrial, or VA shunt, can safely drain the excess fluid away from the brain and into the abdominal cavity or heart, where the body can naturally process it. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember that this whole system isn't static. It is highly dynamic. Thanks to neuroplasticity, your brain actively adapts and physically reorganizes its own connections based on what you learn, the habits you form, and even the stress you experience. Which leaves us with a fascinating final thought. Are you consciously controlling your brain, or is its incredibly complex, evolving programming controlling you? Keep that in mind the next time you sit down to learn something new.